All right, we are live. This is Craig LeBlanc with the Bitcoin Daily Show. One of the 12 hosts that hosts 8 shows, 8 to 10 a.m. every day on X about Bitcoin, all different topics. Each of the hosts produce their own show that's unique. And then on Saturday, we go from 10 to 12. And so through this process, we've met so many great people and great Bitcoiners. And Nate Martin, previously with 99 Bitcoin, was one of the early guys that I ran into and, of course, followed his content forever. And then in the process of building the Bitcoin Daily, we connected. And I think it's been too long since we've talked. I talked with you when I was in Nashville is where we started to really connect. And then life just got in the way and so busy and stuff. So give me updated. What are you working on now, or how's it going?
I'm right now. I'm kind of a two-headed monster, Craig, because obviously I'm starting from scratch, and I have been since March, because that's when 99 Bitcoin was sold, or 99 Bitcoins was sold. There we go. And when they started producing new content with these creators that were just shilling meme coins, I had a conversation. I said, I cannot represent a channel that isn't neutral and informative the way that we have been for the last 7 or 8 years. And so I literally walked away. And so what that meant is that I didn't have a team behind me. I needed to build my own resources and try to keep doing what I had been doing. That was a hard road because because I got the scripts and I had to edit them to make it sound like halfway decent, language to be spoken. And then I would put that on a teleprompter. I would shoot that, and I would send it off to a graphic artist. That was it. That was pretty much my job. Now I've got to do all those jobs. I've got to curate the stories. I've got to write and edit the stories, put them down into the teleprompter, shoot that, and then take that and edit all the graphics and stuff into it as well. And so it's been a long process, but it's been worth it. I've been really, really encouraged by much of my audience who came from 99 Bitcoins and continue to comment on a regular basis. I love the fact that you're doing your own thing and you're still providing content the way that you were. So that encouragement has been extremely beneficial, not only to me, but to my wife, because it's taken a lot more time to do what I'm doing now than what it was when I was with 99 Bitcoins.
Yeah. And so you're primarily so what are you building? A YouTube channel, a following, or what's kind of your overarching mission, and how are you approaching that as far as from which platform are you focusing on? What's the content you're looking to provide?
I've been focused on YouTube because that's what I knew. That's what I know is YouTube. What's really funny is that I haven't produced anything on TikTok. I opened an account and I kind of left it alone. It's been on the back burner, and there's still kind of some followers there. It's like I'm gonna have to do some shorts or something off of the news and start actually producing things on TikTok, because there's already an audience there waiting for me to do something. It's like they're sitting at a theater waiting for the curtain to open. And so it's like I'm a little nervous because it's like I don't want to let those people down, but I think they're probably on more than just TikTok. Knowing me, they're probably also following the effect on YouTube as well. But what's really been difficult is that I've been, like I said, a two-headed monster, because after having left 99 Bitcoins, I had to find some revenue. And part of that has been I've become the head pickleball instructor at our local racket club.
Yeah, I remember you telling me
that. We're building a brand new facility. And so now my job isn't just being an instructor. It's also now hiring instructors, making sure that there's tournaments and events to fill the course so that there's revenue building for that particular thing. But I got to go chase fiat so I can stack sats. And that's what has fallen into my road so that I can pick that up and go. But yeah, I've got 2 full-time jobs because I'm trying to build this business while I'm also trying to make sure that I am of value to the people that brought me on as the head pickleball instructor. And that's just, like I said, this weekend is going to be a telltale sign as to which direction Nate Martin and his family goes.
Yeah. And so you're talking about the Nashville convention. What do you, you're going to be there all week, or what's your plan there? What's your agenda? Kind of what you got going?
My wife and I are driving down on Wednesday night, and we're going to get settled into our Airbnb. I've got one interview that is scheduled for a Thursday morning, and Mike Germano, I met him in person last year during the Bitcoin games, and I was on stage with one team, and I came up to the podium for that round, that the first question that determines who's actually going to continue on by answering the questions, and he just was extremely gracious to me and told everybody from the stage about how much of 99 Bitcoin's content at the time was how he learned a lot about Bitcoin and kind of moved him along his journey. And Mike Germano, if you're not aware, is the CEO of Bitcoin Magazine. And so I gave him a shout after this whole fiasco happened with 99 Bitcoins. I said, listen, Mike, I know I'm just getting started and you've got a big conference coming up, but would you be willing to shoot me media passes? And he came through. And so that's a tremendous opportunity for me to go and get some interviews and rub elbows and talk to people within Bitcoin and grab some content. And hopefully also, I'll be honest, some encouragement as far as what direction to take the channel, because I was a host, I was a spokesperson. I didn't build that business that was 99 Bitcoins. And so I'm in a situation now where, hey, listen, I'm trying to build a brand new YouTube channel and a brand new Bitcoin education and information outlet. And I don't know nearly as much as what the people I was working with did. And without that knowledge, I feel like sometimes I'm shooting in the dark, to be honest. And I need the help to know how to move forward in some of the steps that I wasn't familiar with.
Mm. Yeah, and it's funny that you have a content creator background, and yet there's a whole side of it that you missed out on. And so it's funny when you're a part of a team or you're even part of a company and then you make a transition, there's so much other stuff that you'll have to figure out. But I'm glad to see you're on the journey. I want to see you succeed and see how we can help or how I can help, because I'm kind of like one of those guys. You were one of the first people that I started learning from. You were one of the first personalities or faces out there. And I remember you telling me you were converted by the teleprompter.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. I was literally looking at the camera, reading these things, and I had really no idea what Bitcoin was until Ophir Bagel, who was the founder of 99 Bitcoins, connected with me on Fiverr.com, where I was just offering spokesperson and green screen gigs. And I did a couple of videos for him, and it turned into a more repeating business. We did that for a couple of months, or a number of months actually. And finally, because I knew how to get a hold of him, because I was reading it on the teleprompter, 99bitcoins.com, and I was able to shoot him an email, and we decided let's do this directly. Fiverr made their money, and literally for 6 or 7 years, we had pretty much a very informal handshake agreement that worked out really well for the both of us.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you have so you basically have what they call a press pass and are
Yes.
able to go in the conference. So explain what that is and how that works, and how do you get one of those, and what advantage does that have?
The first time I went to Bitcoin 21 in Miami, and I was so overwhelmed because I had no idea what I was really getting myself into. But Ophir gave me the opportunity to head down there, and I was able to get press passes because we had at that point well over 100,000 subscribers. Actually, we had gone from 100,000 to 500,000 subscribers in the period of between June of 20 and June of 21. It was crazy growth. And so that being the case, it was a lot easier for us to go ahead and say, hey, listen, we're credible. We can actually help, Bitcoin Magazine and the conference by promoting it. And then, you give us the opportunity to be there to interview people and be part of the action. Totally overwhelmed. Had no idea. I mean, I got into the media room and it was just chaotic to me. I had no idea what I was getting into. Hadn't been
What's
really
the
in
media
media
room?
before.
So
That's a great question. The media room itself, basically, they've got a room set aside off to the side of the main stage. And generally speaking, when people get done with their talks, they'll go back and they'll have interviews with different media, like one after the other, in different podcasts or different outlets. Whether that be a small podcast or the local news and they'll be in front of the lights, basically probably telling the same story over and over again because the questions are going to be similar. But we were in that action, and I wasn't aggressive enough as a reporter to get as many people in as I should have. So it was a learning experience for me. It was a learning experience for Ophir. He was gracious. He said, "Look, this was a learning experience for both of us. Let's just keep moving on, moving on." But knowing what I know now, sorry.
How many would you say media organizations were there in there?
I would dare say there were well over 20, and everybody's fighting for floor space, and except for the people that had paid for a specific amount of space, or if it was Bitcoin Magazine, they had their own kind of professional booth up there. So and it wasn't just them. There's a couple other ones as well, but we had our own little corner, and I did the news update from there. And I had a couple of interviews and did some B-roll and did some reporting from the conference, but it wasn't the bang that I thought I was looking for, or that I thought I could accomplish. And like I said, I had no idea what I was trying to accomplish, and that's the
Right.
big thing. So the things that I'm trying to accomplish this time is, one, knowing that I'm going to have to settle my corner, grab people by the arm and say, "Hey, give me a few minutes. I got a few questions for you." Uh, get some content, weed it all out, and have a number of different um, people that I can actually use their stories, or use the interviews as either shorts or short videos on YouTube, to kind of get some context from a lot of different avenues. Um, I want to talk to some people from the mining industry, which I don't know a heck of a lot about. I want to have the big talks about what does Bitcoin do socioeconomically and politically. What does that look like as Bitcoin becomes more and more adopted? Because these are all questions that I don't know whether we're avoiding them, or whether they're just too big to consider while we're still trying to get Bitcoin more and more adopted by
Yeah.
the everyday person.
Now, what time will you get there on Wednesday?
We are driving down from Southwest Michigan. It's probably going to be an 8-10 hour drive. So we're going to get down there in the evening on Wednesday night, and we're going to get fired up and get started on Thursday morning.
I was going to say, if you're available, 5 to 10, we are hosting an event Wednesday night with for the whole mining community, and there will be some big names in mining, and you'd probably be the only media person in there aside from me. And one of my partners in the Bitcoin Daily, Brad, he put on the whole event. He's deep into the mining community. He has all the mining connections. So if you can make it in time, you're welcome to come. You can come as my
Don't tell me to drive faster than I already do. That's a bad idea. It really is.
a little early Wednesday so you can get there in that 5 to 10 window. I'll send you the information. If you can make it, great. And if not, between me and Brad, we can introduce you to some good movers and shakers in mining. We actually, our mining show has on Thursdays has a lot. It's focused totally on mining and energy. And so if you're looking to make some connections in there, we can probably help out with that.
I would. And another one of the goals, or I won't say goal, but the idea for me is to network within the community, because I'm not only am I willing to do what I'm doing on my own, but I'm not averse to taking a look at other opportunities in the Bitcoin only space. What's really funny, Craig, is that I've had since I got the media passes and Bitcoin Magazine has let people know, hey, these are the outlets that are going to be there. I'm getting all these, hey, you have an opportunity for an exclusive interview with such and such a company. And as soon as it says crypto, I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not. I'm really not interested in that, because
Right.
basically these are companies that are trying to elbow into the Bitcoin community and say, hey, we're here to help, and we're
Good luck.
this. Yeah. And I'm like, no, I really don't want to, and I'm sure there are a lot of other media outlets that have gotten a lot of those. But I take a look at that and I go, is this really what we have to deal with? And kind of weed out the people that are going to, basically, they're going to waste my time, because they're going to talk about um, other layers or other exchanges, or how to make this work better. And I'm like, can we just talk about Bitcoin and why it's important, how to use it, how to store it, and why it will make life better? Can we just get there? Because that's really what I want to focus on.
For me, it's like there's so much noise, like on the top of an ocean with a storm. And that reminds me of, where the water meets the waves and the wind. And that's where you find all these crypto people. But a lot of the Bitcoiners have just taken deep dives and are totally disconnected from that noise. But when you come into it, that's just how it is. There's a lot of price volatility. There's a lot of crypto noise. There's a lot of what people think in news media and people trying to put you in different directions. But man, once you go deep, it's like you just totally leave all that stuff behind, and it's just not important anymore.
It's crazy how much I have not begun. It's been a while now. I ignore a lot of the other things. People ask me about, honestly, people ask me about Ethereum or Solana and NFTs. I'm like, I don't care. I really don't. It's not as though I don't want to be informed. Would it be nice to be informed about that so I can have a more complex answer for people? Sure, but I don't see the importance in it. There's just I see everything else as either a company or a grift that takes away from the store of value and the benefit that Bitcoin brings. So I just focus my attention on Bitcoin and what it does and why it's important and how that works socially. Because it's these are big questions. We had a great meetup yesterday here in Southwest Michigan talking about those things. And it's those conversations that are important, not, hey, when moon. Stop it. Just stop it. Just understand that even if it doesn't during my lifetime, it's going to. And with everything that I'm hearing as far as buzz, as far with what's going to be announced, either by Trump or by Bitcoin Policy Institute, or all of the things that are going to be unveiled in Nashville during this season, less than 100 days from a national election in the United States, it's an exciting time. It really is. And so I'm glad that I get to be there and have an opportunity to ask questions of people that are in the know and will reveal some of what the future may hold or what those plans are.
Right. Yeah. And I feel like, sometimes you find something, let's say you find a key that's going to set people free, and you're unlocking one cage at a time, and somebody's behind you saying, hey, shouldn't we be charging for those keys because you're providing so much value to these people? And I'm like, these people were caged and they're going to live a whole nother life, and they're going to be free to do so many things. And you're trying to monetize it. And it's not that money and opportunities won't be created from it. It's just, I think the more you focus on what is it doing in fiat terms, you're missing the point. It's like, it's more than just it's Jeff Booth does a really good job of explaining this. The more I consume his content, the more I'm like, why am I even concerned about the number go up? I should just be over here building great content, building connection, building communities, build and finding ways to get the content out there. I was online. I interviewed somebody that is in Thailand, and he said so little Bitcoin content is in their language. And there are softwares right now that can take this very conversation we're having and reframe our lips, and it looks like we're speaking their language. I was like, and this was yesterday. And I said, okay, that's what I want to get into. And maybe you should, if I figure it out, I'm gonna let you know, because that way you can put your content in so many different languages, because I know your content's going to be spot on, and I want to help kind of share that with the world.
Well, I appreciate that. And it's still, it baffles me, to be honest with you, that, and it baffles me how important my image has become.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you're just in your back office talking to a camera and just reading these things, and then you send it out, you really don't understand the impact that you have. And my wife and I experienced that last year. We went down on GA tickets. We didn't have any expectations. We just wanted to go and experience Miami Beach in Bitcoin 23. And she was absolutely floored. So was I, but she was absolutely floored by the number of people that came up, shook my hand, thank you for what you do, asked for selfies. It was like I didn't know that I had that kind of one reputation, and two, that kind of a following, that I had that kind of an impact.
Sure.
It was really humbling to me. But knowing that I was doing something and talking about something that is as important as Bitcoin is. I speak for a living. I'm having a tough time right now. Uh, that's that gives me a lot of encouragement and peace, knowing that I'm talking about something that um, isn't just temporary. It's something that's going to affect not only my life, but or your life, but it's going to affect generations in such a fashion as it brings integrity back into transactions. And when you bring integrity back into transactions, you lift the level of integrity that happens socially.
Mhm.
So that's what we're looking at, is what Bitcoin can help us do as people. I don't like it when people say, "Well, Bitcoin will do this." No, Bitcoin won't do anything. Bitcoin is a tool that has been developed and designed to be sound so that we can make better decisions with the value that we can hold in it. Don't think that Bitcoin's going to do anything. Bitcoin doesn't fix this. People are going to hate me for having said so. People fix things. But if we can fix things with a tool that is better for us, then that is helpful. It's a technology that makes it easier for us to do things right.
Yeah. And more than just as you were saying that, and then the reaction you and your wife had in Miami, and the reaction people are having to you, Nate. What I'm seeing is that you're not just like an MMA fighter or someone that's an athlete that's just star power. Maybe you want to be that person. You're like the messenger that has brought change into people's lives. And I think what you're experiencing is true gratitude, that it was through you and your face and your content that you're like, if it weren't for this guy, and especially people that have been with Bitcoin for a while, because I think it's almost like when you're in a loving relationship, you're blown away by how deep that love can go. And in a way, Bitcoin's for me has like been the same thing. I'm like, wow, this thing really is touching so much of my life. And then the community aspect, and then you meet people, and then you start building in it, and you look back, and it was almost like when you first met it, you didn't realize what you were stumbling upon. And so if you are kind of the messenger for such a profound change in people's life, you've probably got gratitude for the rest of your life coming your way, unless you go hide in a cave. I think it's only the beginning.
I I don't want to hide in a cave, and life is going to take me on, life is going to take me on a journey that I don't know what that looks like. I can plan, but God has my path laid out for me.
Hmm.
Now, my job is to be obedient and have the moral compass that he has provided. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be the path that I lay out in my planner. Okay, my schedule is set by me, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's what's going to happen. Because let's be honest, if we could just plan out life, then the surprises that happen, whether good or bad, gosh, that would be boring. Wouldn't that be boring? Just to never be surprised? That would be horrible.
Yeah.
Um, some people say, "Well, I don't like surprises." Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. And even if you don't like the surprise, it's better to be challenged by something that you didn't expect. So I don't know why I went off on that diatribe, but there you go. That's part of who I am.
Well, I know you've had quite a kind of a Christian background, and how that comes out in your content and in your voice. Where does that come from? And maybe tell us a little bit about that and how you see it intertwining with your Bitcoin content.
Wow, that's didn't expect this. I'm glad to be able to share. Um, I was I was born and raised in your average American church. Okay. So I knew the stories of Jesus. I knew the books of the New Testament walking out of school, but I never really made a connection to why Jesus was important. because when we were growing up, I think you and I are in similar in age. When I was growing up, you went to church on Sunday morning pretty much to tag up. You know, you were okay. You went and heard a message that kind of put you back on the straight and narrow from what you did on Friday and Saturday night, and then you moved on with your week from there. And that's also where community came from. Unfortunately, in a lot of the churches, it turned into more of a social club than it turned into a real study on God's character, who Jesus is, and what his work through his life, his death on the cross, and his resurrection means for we who are God's creation in his image. So it wasn't until it was March of 1994 when my wife and I were at an Amway convention, of all places, in Lexington, Kentucky. And it was Sunday morning after the convention was over. And the question was asked, if you know you're going to go to heaven, raise your hand. And through all of my Christian education, Sunday school, singing in choirs, and being part of that church community, I still couldn't answer that question. Knowing that, that's when I went down at Rupp Arena in Lexington, Kentucky, regardless of the fact that my wife was standing next to me. And I said, my life is now devoted to Christ. And when I went down with tears in my eyes, with a complete heart change, I felt a nudge next to me, and my wife had come down too, and neither one of us had known that the other person came down.
Wow.
So that was the beginning of my calling in Christ to be a minister for him. And that so that is my first thing. So if I give education on Bitcoin and it helps people's lives, that's good. But if I can give the understanding of four things: one, God is holy. We can never measure up to him. Two, we are sinful. We can never measure up to him. Man is sinful. Third, Christ is Savior. And fourth, repent and believe. That is the gospel in 4 sentences. And if I can have any impact with those 4 sentences and preach the gospel and have hearts changed because God has changed them through what I have said, that is my mission in life. That's first and foremost. So Bitcoin after that, because it is a sound money that offers us an opportunity to have level scales that Jesus talks about in scripture. You know, he hates the money changers. You know, he turned the tables over the money changers because they were dishonest with the money changing. And he talks about money a lot. There's no wonder why. Because it is the integrity of the storage of value and the trust that that value is going to continue to have that value over time. That is, and sorry, I got up on another tangent here. And recognizing that too much focus on money, the love of money, is the root of all evil. We need to back up and recognize that we need to not give up our integrity to make the dollar or even the Satoshi. We need to hold on to our integrity, be people of value, so that that value, that personal value, shows up in our transactions in physical value as well.
Yeah. And I've had that message on my show before where I'm like, guys, Bitcoin is not valuable. You are valuable.
Truth.
Bitcoin stores the value. It's like the jar is not what's in the jar. It's just the vessel. It just holds it. And so, but I have had multiple conversations, and I grew up Catholic, very Catholic, went to all boy Catholic school, and I don't know what kind of experience most people have had with the Catholic Church, but I had an amazing experience. I had like the manliest of men form me, and they were like my heroes. And so I had a great experience, and they taught me virtue in life. And so I went on to try to be a virtuous man. And as I've gotten more and more into Bitcoin, I was like, God, this just seems like God's money. If you were going to make a money, and I'm not almost say I'm ashamed, but I'm surprised that more Christians are not piling into Bitcoin. And I feel like at some point that scale is going to tip, And I feel like there just needs to be more outreach to that community, because to me, they're like the gold people. This is just a natural fit for gold people. It's a natural fit for people in real estate. I think it's a natural fit for Christians. And
I
if
I
you,
I'm totally on board with that. In fact, there's been an inkling in my heart, and I've talked to a couple of people about this. I don't have any plans for this, but I'm willing to work with anybody that wants to, have these conversations and perhaps build something. But
yes,
we know of missionaries overseas who have to deal with governments having to know what money is coming in and are guiding whether or not they can spend that money. Where are we as Western Christians with the resources to give to preach the gospel to places that don't have the gospel because governments are tyrannical? Where is our ability to be able to transfer value directly to those missions so that they can do what they need to do for the gospel without the encumbrance of a tyrannical government having to watch over their heads?
yeah,
And it's Bitcoin. It's Bitcoin. And if we can figure out the channels to get the Bitcoin from us to them and then have them be able to take that Bitcoin and turn it into the currency that they need to do their mission, that is of the highest value to me, because then we are taking the gospel to the ends of the earth, and we can do it with Bitcoin as a tool to be able to get that value and those resources to those faraway places.
yeah. And I can tell you, just by working with Catholic missionaries, especially like the Missionaries of Charity, which is Mother Teresa's, um, the church was used as a way to efficiently get capital to the poorest of the poor. And the church had to kind of use its connection to the government to say, basically, let us keep out as much as this money as possible to give it, because one of the biggest rackets is nonprofits that just, you give $1 and only a fraction of that actually gets to the cause. And I think Bitcoin and a lot of it's not the nonprofits' fault. It's the governments that they operate in these the poorest of poor countries literally just steal the money before it gets to the people. And and I think that there's a great opportunity there, because I've been in fundraising before, and it's disheartening to know that you do all this work to get a little bit of extra profit that you're going to donate to a cause you believe in, only to know that that cause is not really affected by the money that you give. So I think there's an efficiency there, that Bitcoin can actually get money directly into the hands of the frontliners that are doing the work, number one. And then number two, I can probably, just over the last month, I've interviewed probably 6 that come to mind, like yourself, that I think are just itching to somehow compile a message for the Christians, um, in a bit with Bitcoin, because I don't know if it's maybe because they're married, they did a deal with the devil with the nonprofit status. Man, because that would be devastating for a lot of churches to lose that nonprofit status, and to some degree they have to play by the rules that the government sets up for them to be able to maintain that. But sometimes they may have to, give a little on their virtue here and there, or not preach a certain way or something. So that's going to be difficult. But
Well, that would take it to um, another passion of mine. And it's kind of third level passion, because obviously I'm focused on my family, and I'm focused on my church, and I'm focused on Bitcoin education. But one piece of legislation that has not been in the news that should have been, it always is on a new election cycle, is HR 25, which was introduced in 1999, which is the Fair Tax Act. And what that would do is literally eliminate all income-based taxes in the United States, and it would be a consumption tax minus what they call a prebate, minus a spending allowance, so that April 15th would just become a spring day. Now, if you want to go down that rabbit hole, I'm willing to do it, but I just want to let you know that's something. If you're interested, fairtax.org is a resource that you can go to get more background on what HR 25 is and what economists say it would do for the American economy.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think all taxes are theft, and all taxes are, it just gives power. And to a centralized authority. And I think back to the founding days of our country was primarily funded by donations of the patriots that believed in what the country was doing. And I think that if you look at the American culture, most people aren't aware, but working in nonprofits, did you know that America outgives the planet? Just the Americans.
Oh, not even close. It's not even close.
Yeah. That if you look at who gives out of their own capital after paying taxes and business and everything, the 300 million people that live in America outgive the other 8 billion roughly in donations to charitable causes. And so I think a lot of times we don't trust in the generosity of man to give to what he believes in. But just working in churches my whole life, I'm like, well, this whole institution is funded 100% off the generosity of people that are just throwing money in the basket. And we think that we have to force man to give. We have to shackle him if he doesn't, and punish the ones that don't, pay their fair share, kind of stuff. And I'm like, I think you believe too much in centralized authority and not enough in the goodness that's in man, because it's been my experience that when man creates an abundant life for himself, he shares in that abundance. And I've seen that happen time and time again. And I'd love to bring that message more and more out there.
You said something within this last couple of sentences. You said something which was an absolute oxymoron in and of itself, and and that's why I was smiling after you said it. It was that you said you're being forced to give.
Yeah,
and those are two words that can't even fit in the same sentence together, because you can't be forced to give that, because then you're not giving, then you're being coerced. That by definition are two opposite things. So forgive me, that was humorous as you were kind of going through that. Then that's why I brought it back. But generosity can only happen when we as a civil society recognize the right of property. Because if we don't have the right of property, then we don't have the opportunity for charity. Because you have to own something and be willing to sacrifice that thing in order to give it. That is what gives us higher purpose.
What is ownership in property? Like, what do you think going down to the base level, what do you say, this for sure I own? Maybe, and for me, I would just say, okay, I at least own my thoughts. I hope I do. If I think something, it's mine. It's Craig's. I can control it. I'm responsible for it. Maybe talk about that. And I think from there we can build on what our property rights.
I think that, as Americans, and I don't know how far out this particular stream goes, but as Americans, we believe in the right of property, meaning that our ideas and our labor and the fruits of those things, we should have the opportunity, the right actually, to control, to sell, to utilize, or to give. And that's the thing. If there's no personal ownership of property, then we don't have an opportunity to be charitable. And if we don't have an opportunity to be charitable, then we can't plant and grow the seeds of love. Because giving is an act of love. Loving is a verb. It's not just a feeling. To love someone means to give and sacrifice for someone else's benefit, regardless of what it does for yours. And so if we are to love, we must give. So that is why God gave us the right of property, because it gave us the opportunity to love one another in a real physical form, or in teaching something that they didn't already know so that they could benefit, sacrificing your own idea or something that you have learned so that that person can benefit, so that the entire community has the synergy of that knowledge. That's a huge thing that we are losing, because we think that we should raise taxes so that more people can give to these charities, which are now welfare programs.
Mhm.
and think that we're being beneficial, that we're doing the right thing by raising taxes so that we can redistribute that wealth that now we don't have the opportunity to give, that we're forced to give, as you said before.
Mhm.
That's not giving. And what that does is that makes us callous because we don't practice loving through self-sacrificial giving.
And now let's talk about the other side of that coin is what about the person receiving? What does that do to them when you're receiving from someone's generosity directly from them versus someone's property was taken and then the person that took it gives it to you? And then what did you rob from that person to be able to try to lift them up and the lessons they would learn by helping to pick themselves up? I don't think we talk about the the single mom that receives government checks, what that does to wreck her ability to crawl out of this position that she's in.
Well,
You have any thoughts around that?
that's the thing. Actually heard something today about, well, what do you we were talking about Obamacare and how that's turned into a fiasco for the health industry. And the question was asked, well, what do you think about pre-existing conditions? And I thought back to the 70s and 80s when you and I, every Labor Day weekend, watched the Muscular Dystrophy Association telethon with Jerry Lewis. And yes, it took work for those people to show us the stories, not only of desperation, but also of hope that made us feel something for those people. And we decided to give to that organization so that they can continue the work that they were doing. That is that is the answer. And so the difference is this. There is a gratitude that is innate in watching you give something to me and recognizing that you didn't have to. That is a story that can only be told by that person that is receiving something eye to eye from somebody else, whether that be a particular thing, whether that be ideas, whether that be how to balance what used to be balance a checkbook, how to make sure that your finances are in order. All of those things are gifts of our time and of our resources. But when you receive something from a no face figure on a regular basis just because you show up, there's no one to be grateful to because, and you said it, that those resources were robbed from someone else in order to give to or to redistribute to those people who are ungrateful because they don't know who to thank for it.
Mhm.
And so instead of becoming thankful, they become calloused and become entitled, thinking that that's their right to get that money, not recognizing that somebody else was robbed from in order for them to get it. I didn't say somebody else had to give it because that's not what happened. They were robbed from in order to do that because the people that are assigned the task of taxation are misappropriating funds that are intended for the common good to a particular group's good at that other group's expense. That's where our problem lies.
Man, I hope this is the kind of content you're heading towards.
I'd like it to be because the whole idea behind the Bitcoin effect is not news every week. What I'd
Mhm.
really like to accomplish after this whole storm of being a two-headed monster comes to its conclusion is to really ask these questions. Ask people that have tens and hundreds of thousands of Bitcoin, what is your political bent? How do you take the power that you will have amassed when Bitcoin becomes the store of value of choice, the $1 million Bitcoin? All of a sudden, you have billionaires and trillionaires
Mhm.
that have a lot of influence and power and can affect that power in any number of ways, including violence and tyranny.
Mhm.
I'm not saying they would, but those questions need to be asked so that we know whether or not these are the leaders that we want in a new Bitcoin nation. These are tough questions and they need to be asked.
Yeah. And you know, it money and even Bitcoin is such a cheap it's such a cheap and shallow gift. What goes along with the gift are all the other things like gratitude, personal relationship, the lessons, somebody in your corner. Like when you help the widow, the newly widowed lady next door, it's more than just your money. The money's just like tiny piece of it, and really somewhat insignificant compared to all the other value that comes along with it. And so I think when we condition a population that money is the gift, is the only gift, that's all you're going to get, and then you should be grateful for it, and you're just ripping money away from the people that earned it and created value for it, that we're just setting up a terrible relationship between the haves and the have-nots, when we should almost get out of their way and let them meet one another, because they will. I've seen it. I've seen it
Right.
in churches where the haves meet the haves not and are actually working at the soup kitchens. It's not only life changing for the person that doesn't have a lot, it's life changing for the person doing the giving, because there's pain in all of our lives. And you being a Christian, you know that um, pain and suffering, it covers all of us. It's not just for the poor and less fortunate. It's for those that are wealthy from a monetary standpoint, but are struggling in their relationship, struggling with a child, struggling with a relationship with their father that they never really got to know, and that there's so much more that goes on, that just because you're wealthy doesn't mean. And matter of fact, here's a quote that we could maybe speak on. I was told this by an entrepreneur friend of mine. He said, Craig, when you solve your money problems, you're going to find your real problems. And I wish I had never heard him say that, because it sure the heck happened to me. There's so many more, so much, like the number of problems you will face as an adult outside your money problems are, they can break you down pretty easily. And I think that's where we need, I'd love to see more of a Christian message infiltrating or being a part of the Bitcoin message, because I think Bitcoin is just the beginning of the truth that's out there that should be understood by man.
Yeah. And um, Bitcoin is a tool that was designed for the purpose of don't trust, verify, right?
Mm.
Okay, that's the big tagline. Don't trust, verify. Well, if people are by nature good, then we wouldn't need Bitcoin. Because if people by nature were good, then we could trust anyone and we wouldn't have the problems that we have today. But unfortunately, we are self-serving, dare I say, evil by nature. And that being the case, we have to have a system that is don't trust, verify. But that means that we have to understand that we are self-centered by nature. And we have to come to a conclusion that we have to lift ourselves with work to be a conscientious and moral society, recognizing that that law has to be followed by everyone, or else the entire system breaks down because our nature has caused it to.
Yeah. And I would say that the nature of the universe is moving from order to chaos, so that if you drop a glass, it shatters, it moves to chaos. Man has the ability to create order out of chaos, but it's an uphill climb. And so, if left to just the forces of physics, things just fall apart. But the intellect and the virtue of man can create order that can take chaos all around it and create something beautiful. But it's work. It's that man has to come in and add his creativity, his life, his energy, his network, and then with all that, and he can take a blank canvas and random paint and create something that's a masterpiece, that's beautiful. So I think it's that's one thing I love about the Bitcoin culture, is they are a proof of work culture, and to me that matches perfectly with the Christian message and a lot of the other things that I'm behind. Um, so I really do hope you push the content in this direction, and yeah, I'd like to be involved too if we decide to kind of create a message for the Christian churches of the world, because I think there's not enough of it. And I know a lot of people, this is their background, but the two need to kind of merge together a little closer, I think.
I would agree. And to go back to a point that we were making earlier, and this is a while ago now, we're talking about why aren't more Christians that are in Bitcoin speaking up? And I'm afraid that there's a fear that we're going to look as though we're loving money. Because sometimes, let's be honest, there are Bitcoiners out there that are soldiers for Bitcoin. Awesome. Glad you're on the front lines. But as Christians, I believe that a lot of people don't want to look that, I'm going to say the word, they don't want to look that toxic, because as Christians, we're not supposed to be toxic. We're supposed to be the salt of the earth without being salty. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So, so that being the case, it makes it difficult sometimes for us to fit in conversations which are so passionate that it's hard to get the word in edgewise, because we don't want to look as though we're being as powerful or as much of a donkey's behind as what we think some of the others do. And it's these civil conversations, and again, thank you for having me so that we can have them, that are thoughtful, deliberate, but civil, so that we can actually polish off ideas, make them better, so that we can live with better ideas in the future.
Yeah. And so what's the kind of the direction that you think you're going right now with your content? Are you still somewhat in the discovery stage and where it goes? I
It's
guess
not discovery stage. It's kind of it's it's either do it or don't. I really, um, because I'm at a point with my family financially, to be honest with you, because of what happened with 99 Bitcoins, that I've got to make a choice as to whether or not I can build up enough of a business and revenue that the Bitcoin effect is going to be a significant part of what that revenue looks like, or I need to dig in. To be honest, I need to be digging into being the head pickleball instructor slash promoter at the local club, and leave behind the weekly stuff, and really focus my time on one thing, because I've been trying to focus my time on just everything, and my poor wife has been a widow to either Bitcoin or pickleball, and it's not fair to her. It's not fair to my kids or my grandkids either, that I'm downstairs working on editing when they're upstairs and they want to have time with me.
Yeah. I know one thing that I've decided I was going to get good at, and maybe this might help you out a little to cut back on that time, is just getting good. And I think you are very good at live content, and you just press record, you go live, and you get better at delivering a concise message. I forget one of the Stoics, it might have been Plato or it might have been Socrates, but one of them hated um, writing. He said, you need to have full access in the moment of the argument and speak. And so he never wrote anything down. And that's why he was impossible to beat. It was the one that they poisoned that had to drink the hemlock up, whichever Stoic that was. And so if he got before the Senate or before anybody, you just couldn't touch him, because he wrote nothing down. He had it all right there at his fingertips. And so the beauty of live content is you don't edit it. It's just live. There it goes. And so an hour of content took you an hour. And I like, I enjoy hearing you talk right now, just as it is, unedited. It's perfect. Don't change anything. And it's real. Like, you're getting the unedited truth. This is it. And soon you get better at just deleting those mistakes out of your live content anyway. So, I mean, just food for thought. I know our whole show is the Bitcoin Daily Show was just 2 hours of live content. You come on stage, and sometimes we look back and we're like, I cannot believe that was live. Can we go delete that show? But now we've gotten so good at producing and managing the live stage. And of course, life is lived live, so there's no other way to live it. So anyway, just something to consider.
I appreciate that. As I look at some of the content that I started to create back in March, trying to emulate exactly what I was doing for 99 Bitcoins, man, that was hard, because I was still doing the green screen and still doing all the graphics and stuff. Then it went down to, okay, we're going to do slides on Canva, and we're going to kind of hit the page as I'm talking, because I can see I put on the teleprompter when to turn the page as I'm speaking. So I was literally doing that as I was speaking. And so the editing time went down. And the last couple of weeks, I have been inundated with a bunch of different things that have taken up my time. So it's like, you know what? I'm just going to have a bunch of tabs up on Brave, and we're going to go tab by tab and just speak through it. And I won't have to worry about getting photos or doing graphics or what font I'm going to use. and that's taking down the editing time. And as I'm watching content, I'm beginning to recognize I don't need all that stuff. I
Nope.
used to think that I did. I used to think that the bells and whistles were part of what brought people to the content, and it's not. They just want to hear what's real, what's happening, and real opinions about those things. And I'm learning that. I'm learning that slowly but surely. I'm learning that. So I do take that advice to heart because I've actually thought about doing things live, and I've been kind of tinkering around with the equipment to make sure that I can do things. And there again, though, Craig, is I'm trying to do too much. You know, I've got the A10 Mini Pro here, and I've got the different pages and different camera angles and stuff that I can do. And I've got, I've got tabs up on my computer that I can have a second screen and make sure I'm showing a graphic for those things that I'm talking about. And I'm recognizing just slow down.
Mhm.
So I take that to heart. Thanks.
Well, Nate, nothing replaces your voice, your heart, your mission, your passion, your authenticity. No microphone is going to give you that. And you got it. So I would just, that's what attracts me to you. And it's like when you have all the talking heads that we all have access to online, I think your voice and your authenticity and already your reputation slices through everything where people are just like, I don't want all the bells and whistles. I want to hear what Nate has to say. And I've had people in my life like that. Like I've sat there and listened to Jeff Booth while I'm running, and I'm like, the only thing I hear is his voice in these little earbuds. And I think you're there. I don't think you need to do anything. I think you need to talk, press live and speak. You 100% of what you need, man, right now.
Wow, thank you. I'm drawing back a little bit of emotion because that's extremely valuable to me. So thank you very much. I do appreciate that. And I'll dig more into live content. I absolutely will. I think that that's something that it's been an inkling anyway. It's just a matter of being comfortable enough to go ahead and turn it on and go. And so if you don't mind me plugging, actually, I got to go back because we were talking before we actually hit record about my horrible case of gas, which is gear acquisition syndrome. And how do you get started with video or audio or podcasting? You want to dig into that for a few minutes, or is that?
No, let's do it.
So when I got started, I literally on Fiverr, I bought a Sony A5000, which doesn't even have an audio input.
Let me cue up the audience a little. So when we first started, I saw his microphone and I heard his voice, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to get that mic. Mine is terrible. And so I was like, can you help guide me on the gear journey? And then he said, I have a gas problem, gear acquisition syndrome.
Gear acquisition syndrome, yeah.
I definitely have it. So, okay, continue.
So, I grew up in the theater and producing music and being on stage was like everything has to be a presentation. And that unfortunately is a precursor to gear acquisition syndrome. And that's where I'm at now. But when I got started, I bought a camera and I bought, the Zoom H4 and all the things. I'm going to vlog and I'm going to make some money with vlogging. And that I started to do stuff. And my wife's like, so how are you going to make money with these vlogs? Or, you're going to have to start making money with all this stuff that you had this mini midlife crisis with. And I realized that she was right. And I got onto Fiverr and literally was doing green screen and spokesperson stuff for $5 for 30 seconds or whatever. And I had literal can work lights with like sheets over them to soften the light. I had a Sony Alpha 5000, which didn't even have an audio input. And I had a Zoom H4n with a $10 Sony lapel mic. That's how I got started. In fact, if you go back to, I cringe at it now. If you go back to the What is Bitcoin video and you hear my tone and you see the quality of the video, you're like, oh, wow. That's how I do anyway. I say, can we just redo that? Because it looks horrible. Right. But you're always your own worst critic. And when you take a look at things that you've done 6 and 7 years ago, you're like, oh, wow, I thought that was good. And so I always want to improve what I'm doing. So let's go to the end and I'll talk about what I have in front of me. I've got a Canon SL3 in front of me that I'm talking to you on. The reason I got that was because it was less than $600 at the time, and it's got clean HDMI out. Why do I need clean HDMI out? So that I can run it through my ATEM Mini Pro ISO, which I can record 4 different channels on in video at the same time. It shortens your editing time tremendously.
Wow.
And I also have the first version of the Rodecaster Pro, which I've used for some podcasts with panels, as well as this is what I use for pretty much all of my sound now. Now, that all together, you're looking at $450 for the mic, $600 for the camera, plus the cables and now the Rodecaster 2, I think is $700. So put that all together, you're looking at $2,000 just to get started. Please don't do that. In fact, when I go to Nashville, much of what I do is going to be done on my phone. I've got an iPhone 15 Pro Max, and it's got a USB-C. And the thing is, I can take the Rodecaster Pro and plug it into my phone, put my phone up on a tripod, and have ridiculously good audio with 1080 or better video, and create a one camera podcast interview with anybody. And you don't even need the lighting because the iPhone is so good at making those adjustments. And there again, to be honest, I don't need to worry about perfect quality. I don't need to worry about Netflix style quality. I just need to make sure that it's not ugly and it doesn't sound like crap.
Right.
And because if the message can get through how bad your quality is, then that's all that matters, because the people just want to hear what you have to say. I mean, I take a look at some of the other channels that are doing either crypto or Bitcoin with no graphics or anything, and they're literally reading off of their phone. I'm going, why am I doing everything that I'm doing? So there again, don't get a case of gas.
Right.
Have the heart for what you have the heart for what you know and what you believe, and hit record, and don't be ashamed to hit publish. Those are the 2 hardest things to do, is to hit record and to hit publish, and then surrender the outcome. Don't worry about how many people watch it. Just focus on the fact that you are passionate enough about it to let the world know.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's also important to be vulnerable when you create. And when you create a bad piece of content, because it's your early days, the early viewers that see that, you may be encouraging them, well, look, if he can do it, then I can do it. And when you see flawless content, sometimes that demotivates you to get started. And you've got a lot of content creators out there that just need that little push. And if you just go and embarrass yourself a little and keep creating, then that lowers the bar for entry for others to follow in your footsteps. And I think the most important thing is just the message. I mean, my generation, I grew up on Earl Nightingale and, gosh, so many of these other old guys, Jim Rohn, and you look at their grainy content, and their audio was muffled, but their message was just soul piercing. And they had such control of the English language and of their voice. And I would say, put your work there. Put your effort on making your message more articulate, your language, the words you choose, your voice, your pauses, your silences. That's your tech isn't going to upgrade that.
No, it's not. It's funny because you talk about that, and in my 20s and 30s, I was listening to Rush Limbaugh just
me too,
on a regular basis.
Yep.
And from 12 to 3, it was like, just don't talk to me. My radio's on. Here we go. And when it came time to where he was literally streaming, he had one camera in the corner just so that you could see what he was doing. Why that was interesting, I don't know. But it's like you felt more of a connection with Rush and his message because you were able to see him in the paper mess of his studio, never looking into the camera, just doing his work. There was a connection there that you felt, and it's weird, and I don't know why I even brought it up, but it's like we're talking about the content is so much more important that you can get past. If your content is passionate and articulate, then the production takes second base.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's where you get the depth that you're looking for. And depth, that's where all your, I mean, if you were trying to monetize, let's say you were actually, I want to do this because I want to find a way to make a living doing it. The depth you create in other people, the depth and the connection you have, that's where all of your money's coming from. It's your people that are your daily listeners that love you, that those are the ones that comment and share and subscribe, not the ones that you happen to trick into your channel through some fanciness, but the ones that just love your voice and your message and are a part of the family almost. And they feel like they're just, and we have those on the Bitcoin Daily Show. We've got people that they don't miss. I see them every day in the audience, and they consume 2 hours of content every day, 7 days a week. We're like part of their coffee routine. And that is the community that's going to help you do this for a living, not the ones that, you know, come in when number go up and they're just looking for any kind of content, but the actual, like I was to Rush. I was just like you. I never missed. And I don't know what it was. He had maybe I was mesmerized by his voice. I loved his, maybe I can point it out this way. Have you ever listened to Lex Friedman by any chance?
I'm not familiar, actually.
Joe Rogan.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So those two guys, Lex Friedman is more of an intellectual than Joe is. And he's a coder. He's a Russian. He's a black belt in Brazilian jiu-jitsu. And he's interviewed Elon Musk, Jordan Peterson, the biggest names in the internet. And he's got like 5 million followers. I love to watch this guy understand something that he knows nothing about. The way his curiosity asks questions. He does 4-hour interviews. And it's like, I like to think the way he thinks, and I like to watch him discover, and it helps me think better when I'm done with his show. I go into my day almost like with a Lex Friedman mind now. And I used to like how Rush would just get an article, and I would like to know what he thought about it, how he picked it apart. It's like you're looking through the lens of Rush Limbaugh. And I think we entrust these somewhat mentors of thought that we like attach ourselves to, because I'm not sure I could have picked a piece of information I didn't know better than him. So I'm kind of like using him, like help me filter out what's right and what's wrong. And you could be that. I can tell you, you could be that for people, that you see a piece of news and you're helping people see the deeper meaning behind it. And you've got that trusting voice. You've got that notoriety. That's what I think. And to me, that's talk radio. That is just live talk radio.
Oh, and that's what we grew up on. And so,
yeah.
And in fact, my son picks on me because he's like, Dad, you have such a 90s radio voice. And it's not like I'm trying. That's the funny part. Is that I'm not like I'm trying.
Does he want to get into it? Tell me about your family. You've been married, couple kids.
I will have been married 39 years in September to my wife, Kim. And we have 2 children of our own, Cassie, who has 2 sons, and my son, Dustin, who is attached, but I need to drive him to put the ring on the finger. That's I pick on him about that, and he say, "Don't rush me." I say, I get it. But they're 37 and 32, and our son, because of situation, he lives here at home. In inflation and in Bidenomics, it makes it really difficult for a new entrant into the economy to be able to have a place of their own. I get it.
Yeah.
Okay. But he's an intellectual. He and I have some discussions that sometimes I just need to go time out. We need to go sit down in front of the microphones and talk about this.
Yes.
Because those are, and they're hard discussions. And when he and I disagree, it gets a little bit passionate, but it's never as though we're disrespectful of the other. It's just that all of a sudden, and you're seeing me do it right now, the brows furl, and we're just deep into it. And so it's not as though I'm angry. I'm determined, and I'm really thinking about what I have to say. So I have the generally displeasant look, resting face. They call it RBF for the women. I don't know what they call it for us. But you kind of understand that this is a thoughtful look. This is not an angry look. So Dusty and I have those kind of conversations, and it's it's fun to have those. But Jet and Johnny, Jet's our younger of the two grandsons. He's a fireball, man. He loves baseball. He loves he's just that active kind of guy. Johnny's the more thoughtful approach, and he he asks great questions. Unfortunately, it's hard to drag them out of the electronics every once in a while, but he's so engaged with his brain that it's like if he disengages, he's totally bored and out of it. And I get that, especially in today's electronic world. But there's no better time spent for me than just to go out and throw a frisbee with those guys and just enjoy watching them as young boys experience childhood,
Yeah.
because that's something that cannot be you cannot overestimate or overvalue um, the amount of time spent with a child to and here we go, we're going back to loving and giving. Yeah, because when you give, it's more than just money and it's more than just time. It's an emotional investment. And people can recognize when you're investing your emotion in them, and especially in children. And that's why it's so vital to be a part of kids' lives and be the encourager, be the be the corrector, be the disciplinarian, but for them to recognize or for you to instruct, to counsel in that discipline why it's going to be important. And you know what? It's not going to click every time. It's not going to click every time. It's
Yeah.
going to be a hard road because you're going to look at them, they're going to have the deer in the headlight look until they don't. And then that's when the value of the relationship increases that much more.
And I would just reflect on life as a journey and reflect on your own time. Try to remember when you were young and how you had to just live life, to get that context. That's just part of the journey.
It is. And, I grew up, believe it or not, I am a loner. I am just as happy being here in the editing booth as I am out in public. Now, am I comfortable in public now? Sure I am, but that's because of the repetition. But I'm just as happy in my own thoughts or reading a book or, even sometime just playing a game of chess just to get the time done. But it's I'm more of an introvert than I was as a child, and so even you know building personal relationships is different for me than it is for some people that have been around a group of people all of their lives.
Yeah, it really is. It's funny to just kind of reflect on where we were, where we came from, but I think that's important. When we're working with young kids. I'm noticing on my end, it looks like I'm frozen, but I think our audio is still going through. Is that what you're seeing on yours?
That's what I'm experiencing as well.
Yeah. And this is the beauty of live content. So for those of you listening to live content, now it's real. You can never plan these. It happens on Spaces all the time where we'll just get rug pulled or we get a troll, and I'm like, there we go, we're live. This is
I'm
not AI.
I'm curious. Are you seeing? Because I don't see anything on my end. Are you actually monitoring comments or questions that are coming up? Because if you do, then we can talk about some of those if you see ones that you'd like to highlight.
I haven't. So the comment section again, yeah, right now it's kind of frozen up. Let me now it may stay on for you. I'm gonna log out. Maybe if you want to just sit there for a second or talk about something, and it'll take me probably about 60 seconds to come back in. So just a
Have you done this before so that the stream doesn't end because I'm not the host? Are we sure about this?
Yeah, it's happened by accident before.
Okay.
So yeah, because actually I'm looking at my live feed,
Hmm.
and yours is fine, so I can see you, but
Okay.
I'm frozen. So let me hop back in and I'll see what happens.
Yeah, I can see that. While he's away, I'll just go ahead and plug my channel. The Bitcoin Effect on YouTube. Right now, I am publishing each week a weekend synopsis of news that affects Bitcoin, and it, as far as politics, mining, price action. And if that's something that you'd like to follow me on, by all means, do go to the Bitcoin Effect on YouTube and subscribe to the channel. Leave me a comment that you saw me here on Craig's show, and I'll look forward to having interaction with you, because I do read the comments and I answer them personally. And I'm looking forward to meeting more and more people who are interested in Bitcoin and what effect it's going to have on us socially, politically, and economically. So hopefully I don't have to talk too much longer, because I know that Craig's going to be coming up here in just a second. And there again, I can't see any chats or comments either. So I'm literally stalling as he's coming on. In the meantime, we'll go ahead and just take a short break until he comes back on. I'll be right back. That is not the one I meant to do. That's hysterical. Welcome to live streaming. So I was able to fill in a little bit. You back? You, I believe, are as yet muted. Nope, still can't hear you. Nope, still. Yeah, I got no audio yet. Oops. Sorry, there we go. I've got no audio yet. Can't hear you. There it is. Gotcha.
We're back.
So I basically just rambled as you were going on there. And it looks as though I've lost him again. There he is.
All right.
Gotcha.
The tech is overwhelming.
It certainly can be.
Yeah, it's like an echo. Well, this is the first for. Can you hear it as well?
I've got some glitch, like a delay or something, but it's a digital glitch.
Okay.
I've got you twice now.
Is that
Craig, I think that we might have actually 2 feeds of yours. So you need to get rid of one of those feeds.
there we go. Now I think I'm back.
I do believe that you are back.
Fantastic.
So
Okay.
everybody got to hear my theme song after I got done, because I was like, I'm done. I can't rant anymore. I've run out of stuff to try to stress with. So here's my show channel and music until Craig comes back. So you'll have an opportunity to see that on the replay.
There you go. Now you've experienced the worst live can get. Technical standpoint.
Well, it wasn't the worst that it could get, because I could have screwed up a heck of a lot more things on my end, but I'm glad it was that this faux pas was as smooth as it was. I'll put it that way.
Sure. Well, this has happened to me one other time when I first started. My feed, I think we had an internet problem here locally. And then finally I fixed it. I came back and the guy was interviewing was still there, and he was just going on. He was so gifted. And
Well,
so the whole thing just kept recording. So
it gave
go.
me an opportunity to just kind of plug the channel and what I'm going to do there. And then, like I said, I ran out of things to say, so I said, "Okay, here's my logo and my theme music," and I was just waiting for you to come back.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, that being said, so where else can we find you? Mostly on YouTube, right? And
Mostly
your
on YouTube at the Bitcoin Effect. Evidently, I'm going to have to start doing some shorts. I'm going to have to drag my son by the hair to the editing room and show him how to do some, X content, maybe some Instagram. We'll see about that. But I think that TikTok is probably the next step for me. YouTube, and I can just take the other stuff and throw it on Rumble as well. I haven't done that yet. Just because I'm trying to juggle my time between that and being an athletic instructor, as it will, through pickleball. So that's the life I've been living. And after this weekend, I've got to have to make a real choice as to what one direction I'm going to go, based on the encouragement that I've gotten from you, and also from yesterday's Bitcoin meetup in Benton Harbor, Michigan, from DW there. Uh, I'm really hoping that the weekend turns into something that can help this journey down the Bitcoin road, because let's face it, Bitcoin is a heck of a lot more important. And I'm going to irritate some people that are my pickleball fans. It's a lot more important than teaching people how to hit a plastic ball over a net. It really is.
Yes, I really, and you have a global audience on one and a local audience on another.
Yes,
So
that's true.
you would definitely, I think you already have had a global impact. I'd like to see you stay on that journey. But yeah, if you can make it on Wednesday, let me know. Just hit me up in the DMs on X, and we will get you into that event Wednesday evening. It's from 5. I think we're done at 10. So anytime in that window, if y'all just want to stroll on in unannounced, just let me know. And
Yeah,
we'll
just
get you.
DM me I tell you what, pencil me in, because I think we're trying to leave at like 6 a.m. Eastern time here.
Okay.
And so we should probably arrive mid to late afternoon into the Nashville area, as long as construction isn't too bad along the pathway. So that being the case, I'll definitely keep your event at the top of the list if we're not too exhausted to try to make our way there. Uh, that's the only thing. If Kimmy or I are just too dead, because that's a lot of driving,
That
then
is.
we're going to take our time, get ourselves settled in, and get ready for the morning. But
There will be
if
food
you have,
there.
what's that?
There will be food there. So if you it could just be your dinner. That way we can cover that.
You know what? You have just about sold me. Then you just count on us then, because if we can get food there, then and as well as great conversation with the community,
Yeah.
that's a win-win for everybody. So I
That-
appreciate that. So like I said, pencil me in and give me the DM as far as where that's going to be at and how to get access. I don't know if there's tickets or anything, or how you're going to do that, but just let me know.
Sounds good. Well, I'll see you in a few days.
I look forward to it. It's been a pleasure, Craig. Thanks.
Yep. Thank you for your time, Nate. Bye. All right. We have had a great interview with Nate Martin. He was formerly with 99 Bitcoin, one of the earliest faces that I've learned from in the Bitcoin community. He will also be attending the Nashville conference along with a lot of great Bitcoiners and influencers and content creators. So I know a lot of us have not gotten to meet the people that listen to us, follow us. And so please, I recommend come up to any content creator, introduce yourself. I know it means a lot to us to know that we're making an impact. A lot of us are creating from our own homes, and it's not like we have some big studio. We just believe in what we're creating, and we want to add to the conversation. And so to be able to meet the people that we're creating content for and consuming our content is really important to the content creator. So I can at least speak for myself. If you see me out and about, please introduce yourself. I'd love to meet y'all. Same thing with Nate. I know he feels the same way, and I could probably speak for most of the content creators there that, meeting your audience is powerful for us, and it's kind of fuel in our tank. So again, I'm Craig LeBlanc, one of the 12 hosts of the Bitcoin Daily Show. We produce 8 shows every day, 2 hours a day, 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern, live on X. If you're ever on X during that time, please leave a comment, come up to the stage, introduce yourself, even if you're just saying, guys, thank y'all so much for the content. It means a lot to us. I know it means a lot to the content creators that I work with. And it really does help provide meaning to what we're doing, because it really is a passion project for most of us. So hope to see y'all there in Nashville. I'll be there Wednesday through Sunday. And then every morning, 8 to 10 a.m., of course, I'll be there tomorrow with the TradFi group. If you're into TradFi, or if you're into Wall Street analysis or what the institutional money's thinking, the Saturday show, that's what it's about. So that's tomorrow. Great show today, Tracy and Hector. And then, of course, I have my show on Sunday. It's the only show that I actually host officially on Sunday when we talk about philosophy. So look forward to seeing y'all, or to hearing y'all on X, and look forward to seeing y'all in person in Nashville. Y'all have an awesome weekend, and we'll see y'all here tomorrow. Thanks. Bye.